This is going to be a reaction video by me, a certified financial planner, chartered financial consultant, and certified student loan professional. So I'm very specialized in student loans and have been in the financial planning space for 10 years. I'm going to be reviewing the Ramsey Show summary of the quote of this video, or the title of this video is "Your family has given you horrific financial advice." So let's see if that's true, and let's talk through this video.
Refi.com/Ramsey.
I've come to the realization that I've made a lot of really bad financial decisions. For a while, I was blaming my parents and being upset about it, but I feel like I should also take accountability.
Yay!
It's a big day.
That I have.
Yeah, welcome to adulthood. That's awesome. We're proud of you.
Yes, so I wanted to get some advice because I'm in a lot of debt and I've been working on paying them off, but I still feel like I'm kind of drowning. And my mom's currently asking me to help buy a house, and I don't know,
that's a hard no.
But I just
Don't even know your financial situation, and hard no. Yeah. How bad is it? How much do you owe?
So I'm in about $230,000 worth of debts, and that's student loans and then some credit card debt. I did pay off one credit card recently, and I closed the account. I got that advice from your show. Now I'm just working on finishing paying off the other one.
$230,000 in student loans? Like, what? Are you a doctor?
No, but that is what my dad wanted me to become. So he talked me into taking out the loans and staying in school.
What was the degree in? And did you finish?
Yes, I got 2 degrees. I got an undergrad in public health, and then I got a master's in health administration.
Oh, geez.
And are you working in that field?
I'm currently working as a care coordinator. I make about $54K a year.
Yeah, dude, you took out $230,000 for a MPH.
I used to work with a lot of MPHs, actually. My first firm I ever worked at was a financial planning firm that specialized in federal employees. And a lot of those positions at the CDC, where I live here in Atlanta, we've got a big CDC campus, or lots of campuses, actually. Those positions want you to have an MPH, and it helps you go and climb up the income scale within the federal system. So it was very encouraged. But the benefit to having an MPH and going into public health is you're working in public service. So you could be looking at public service loan forgiveness for the loans that you're borrowing for that undergrad and graduate degree, as long as the loans are federal. She says that she's a care coordinator right now, so I'm not sure. It sounds like she's not working in the profession that she went to school for. We'll maybe learn a little bit more here coming up, but a care coordinator, depending on where she's at, if she's at a nonprofit, she could still be looking at public service loan forgiveness. She doesn't have to be doing what she went to school for to pursue that program. It just matters where she works right now. And if she's working at a nonprofit public service entity or government entity, then she would be eligible for PSLF for these loans. So that could be a big deal, to where 230 is the balance, but she's not planning on paying off that balance if she's going towards PSLF. She would just be working on paying, the minimum, which is the income-driven plan, until she got 120 payments, and then whatever balance is left is then forgiven. So if that's the case, problem solved here with this 230,000, right? But let's listen a little bit longer.
I mean, what's the highest possible money you could make as a public health administrator?
Probably like around 75 to 80K a year.
Gosh.
I would beg to differ. I think you can make more. There were definitely higher steps in the GS system working as a federal employee with an MPH. So I think her pay scale might be a little off here. But still, working in public health, she'd be eligible for PSLF. So her income-driven payment would be based off of that 75 or 80,000, making that payment very doable because it's proportionate to her income.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Are these private schools?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the student loans are with the government.
No, I know they are, but this is are you a first-gen college student?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's it's such a brutal trap where parents are like, no. My kid's going to go to this fancy school.
Make me look good.
And then they're going to be they're going to carry it for
my dad said, because I had realized that freshman year, and I was saying, I don't know if that's a good idea.
Yeah.
But he seemed so excited about it that I got into a really nice school.
And all the loans are in your name, right?
Half of it is in my name and the other half is in my mom's name.
Well,
So
yeah,
is it
but I mean,
a
but
Parent
she's
Plus loan or what? Like, is she liable or are you?
Yes, the Parent Plus loan.
yeah, but she's hitting you up for money to buy a house, and so
So for undergraduate, I wonder how much. She said half. That's interesting because that would mean her undergraduate was pretty pricey. But if she had to go and borrow Parent Plus loans, that means that basically her borrowing limits as an undergrad, you can only borrow up to like 29, 30,000 under your own name for an undergraduate degree. So if the degree is worth more, like if they're asking for more, the cost of attendance is more, you can spill over into Parent Plus loans. That's another funding option. That's a federal loan that the parent borrows. So it is under the name of the parent and reliant on the parent's income situation or career situation to kind of decide what the best path is for those Parent Plus loans. So depending on what her mom does for work, she could also go on an income-driven plan with the Parent Plus loans. There is loan forgiveness associated with income-driven repayment, even without PSLF. So if she's not working in public service, there could still be loan forgiveness associated with that. If she's first generation college student, that makes me think that maybe her mom is not earning a lot of income or maybe no income. Maybe they rely on her father's income that she's talking about. I'm just assuming here. But an income driven plan could be a good option to where they're not paying the loans off. They're leaning on the options available and looking at loan forgiveness. So that could be interesting. They're not wrong that, our college is overpriced. Yes, I would argue that a lot of them are. The cost of attendance is outrageous right now, especially for undergraduate degrees and with the ability to borrow Parent Plus loans and Graduate Plus loans for graduate school. Those loan types don't have a loan limit. So you can borrow up to the cost of attendance, and that's whatever the school says it is. So they're not wrong that the school system is kind of messed up. It is. But I think there's some solutions to this that need to be talked about. So hopefully we're getting there.
she has no.
Well, not money. She wants me to put my name down for it because I have pretty good credit.
No, gosh. Hey, listen. I say this
help.
with all love to your family. They have.
So her mom wants her to basically refinance the loans into her name, which you can do with Parent Plus loans. You can privatize them and put them in the student's name, but that does mean that it goes on her credit. It goes off of her mom's, goes on her credit. She has the liability of the monthly payment, and a private loan doesn't have income-driven options. So that might be something that really needs to be looked at before she pulls the trigger on, if that's what her family is suggesting, because it's a permanent decision to refinance the loans. And there may be a better reason to be looking at income-driven repayment with those Parent Plus loans.
Given you such horrific financial advice up till now, you've got to stop listening to them. Okay? Like you've carried your dream as far as you can carry it because now this is your nightmare.
I don't love the shaming right here because I think her parents wanted the best for her. And we have been told as a nation, it has been part of our culture for a really long time now that go to college, get a good degree so you can have a good income to support your family in the future. That's what we've been told. We have been sold that by schools, by Congress, by a lot of different things, that going to school equals higher income, better job prospects, which statistically is true. That is still true. Does that mean that the cost of attendance should have gotten as outlandish as it has? No. That doesn't mean that. But I feel like her parents wanted the best for her, and they are first generation here in the US. They probably had no idea how the student loan system worked or how, the costs associated with school looked like what it did look like. But it also this situation is also, there's a lot of other options like PSLF that they're not talking about yet. I hope they get there. But PSLF is a really good option for this person if she's working in public health or in public service. And that needs to be discussed here because in a financial plan, we need to explore all options, not pretend certain options don't exist, right? So let's see.
If you told me you owed 230 grand and you were finishing up med school, you're finishing up nurse practitioner school, then I would be sad for you, but man, there's a path. This is going to be really tough. Because even the highest possible paying job you could get as a public health official with an MPH, Master's in Public Health, it's 75 or 85 grand.
I have a Master's in Health Administration, so I'm looking to go into administration and hospital management.
Yeah, but then the federal government just announced they're hacking all the NIH jobs, and that's going to trickle down through administrative positions at hospitals.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
And you're living in New York City?
There are talks about basically taking a closer look at hospitals and identifying which hospitals are actually serving and acting as if they're nonprofit and which ones are more so acting like they're for profit. So there is going to be a flashlight on nonprofit hospitals here coming up, but there's been no news or truth to them completely pulling nonprofit statuses out of all hospital systems. That's not true. That's fake news right there. Nonprofit, again, to be eligible for public service loan forgiveness with federal student loans, you have to be employed directly by the nonprofit entity, which if she's in administration, she is hired directly by that entity. And as long as it's a nonprofit status, which she could prioritize in her job search, then she should be good for that PSLF program. Doctors and physicians, sometimes they have a harder time qualifying for PSLF if they're hired through a partners group or like a private group that serves the nonprofit hospital, because the partners group that they're hired by is usually a for-profit entity and they contract through these nonprofit hospitals, and that can be common. And so sometimes with physicians, when we're talking to them about their student loan plan and PSLF, we have to be super specific to know, okay, where exactly does your paycheck come from? Does it come from the nonprofit entity, or does it come from a private entity, like a group that you got hired by and you just do the work at a nonprofit space? California and Texas have carved out eligibility for these types of situations where physicians are able to still be eligible for PSLF if this is the scenario, if they are by state law required to be hired through a partners group. So that's been taken care of. That's not been threatened at this point. All hospitals are not all of a sudden not going to be nonprofit status or eligible for this PSLF program. So that's something that I don't think they should be kind of laying out there as a blanket statement and making it sound like that's not something that she can entertain at all. Because it is. It is something that she can entertain for sure.
Yes.
How are you surviving making $50,000 with 230 in loans in New York City?
Well, I'm currently renting out a bedroom and paying monthly rent.
I think you need to move to a lower cost of living area. What's keeping you in New York City?
My family.
Yeah.
But what are they doing? I mean, just to see them and hang out with them?
Because I have a chronic illness, so I originally did want to move out when I started college and go to a different state, but my mother didn't think that was a good idea because she was worried that.
So, are they helping take care of you? Are you working full time?
No, I'm taking care of myself pretty well now. I take care of my own stuff. All of my medical stuff. I make my own appointments, go to them.
Okay,
I'm pretty independent now.
If that's the case, then I would move. I'd find a job. If you can make $54K in Idaho, you're going to have a better shot at paying off these student loans in your lifetime. But New York City is not the place.
I don't think her path should be entertaining paying off the loans. True, the cost of attendance in New York is way different than what it would be in Idaho or Mississippi or some other lower cost of living area. If she's really wanting to purchase a home in the future, I think that could be sound advice depending on what her income potential is. Like if her income potential is really just 75 to 80,000 or so, and she's living in New York City or New York State, there could be lower cost of living areas where she could get more bang for her buck, because home prices are lower than what they would be in New York. So he's not wrong here by talking about like the difference in cost of living between different states and things. But there's also something to be said about being close to your family. Like, yeah, you could totally move completely across the country to be in a lower cost of living area, but then you have no family support. You're not able to visit your family regularly. It costs money to go see your family at any time you wanted to do that. Moving to a lower cost of living area, but it's also adding an expense to stay involved and be able to visit your family on a regular basis that you'd have to kind of budget in to your line items, right? So I kind of understand why mom doesn't want her to move away because that's her baby. But, if that was something that she was interested in doing, go for it, because it could make a lot of sense financially speaking, especially if she wants to purchase a home. But the student loans here aren't really part of the equation because she should be entertaining public service loan forgiveness.
Here's the thing. You have run up against a hard truth, and this hard truth is math. And I know you want to honor your mom and dad by doing whatever they say and carry their dreams forward. I get that. And I know that's a hard thing that George and I are asking you to do. And I know you want to stay in New York City. And I know that you want to make sure that you don't make your mom stressed out with her worrying and all this stuff. You have a math problem, a very serious math problem.
Not if she's looking at PSLF.
And that is, you owe the United States government $230,000 and you make $50 a year.
Yeah. So her income-driven payment calculation, let me actually run that real quick. So she says she has $230,000 of federal student loan debt. Half of it is her mom's and Parent Plus loans. So I'm just going to take half of that 230. It's about 115,000. That sounds like it's in her name, but they're all federal loans. Let's say that the interest rate is around 7%. That's probably about ballpark of where the interest rates have been over the past 5 years. Let's just say that she's starting repayment this year. She didn't really say exactly when she graduated. She's working in a public service capacity from what I can tell from everything that they're talking about. So I'm going to say yes to PSLF. Sounds like she's single. She's making about $55,000 a year. What does that look like for a student loan payment? Well, there's a lot of numbers on here, but really the income-driven plan, so SAVE, this one is at risk right now. This was something that was brought about by executive action under the Biden administration, and that's not how repayment plans should be born. Honestly, it probably should go through a legislative process. So we think that this plan is going to go away. So I wouldn't be looking at this column, but we do have new IBR. This plan, new IBR and old IBR, they have been written into legislation. So they were brought about by law. New IBR would be relevant if somebody borrowed after July 2014. She sounds like a newer borrower. She sounds like she went to school in the past 5-6 years. So I would assume that she's eligible for new IBR. Her income-driven payment off of $55,000 of income would be $263. And this is probably high because I'm sure she's got she's probably contributing to the FERS pension, which is a federal employee retirement system. She may have a percentage or two going towards her TSP, which is the federal 401k equivalent. So this is probably higher, her adjusted gross income is probably lower than what this number is. But at most, that income-driven payment would be $263. And if we're looking at PSLF, so between now and let's just say she started this year, now and 10 years, which is 120 payments, she stayed in this position. And let's say her income does increase, because I know that income does increase over time in the federal system as you work your way up the brackets or the GS level system. So let me maybe increase this a little bit more. Let me do a 5% growth rate. So let's say she's at that 75, 80,000 in the next 5 years with her career growth. Her payments will gradually grow over time as her income grows. But if we're looking at this stretched out over 120 payments, between now and 2035, if she was consistently employed by an eligible employer, she'd pay about $42,000 towards the loans in the form of those payments month to month, and she'd have $153,000 forgiven. So this balance is greater than what she has now, $115,000, right? And that's because her payment isn't enough to cover the principal and interest. But the income-driven plan doesn't require that. It just requires the payment to be based on income, and that is what is eligible for PSLF. You have to be on an income-driven plan. So this would be an eligible plan. She'd pay $42,000 over the next 10 years and have the rest forgiven. So this financial crippling kind of preaching that these guys are doing is not completely accurate, because she's totally in a PSLF eligible position and could easily find a PSLF eligible job where she doesn't have to focus on the loans. She could pay the required minimum. This makes it very possible for her to have rent or to pay other bills in her budget. And then the loans are not really a focus at that point. Now, she does have her mom's loans, the Parent Plus loans that are in the equation. That there's not much information on what her mom does for work, if her parents are married, what her mom's income is, but she could also entertain an income-driven plan. Parent Plus loans have access to a plan called income contingent repayment if they consolidate the loans, or they could be looking at a standard repayment plan that stretches the loans out over a 30-year repayment term. There's options there for the Parent Plus loans as well, which don't have to mean financial ruin, right? I think we take advantage of what's available, and PSLF is something that should be available to this person. And so it's crazy to me that they're not mentioning that at all. They're looking at this as just a debt to pay back. So let's finish up this conversation.
It's just a math problem, and it's catastrophic. It's really tough.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have to get serious about where can I live, where my cost of living is as low as humanly possible, and what job can I get? Can I find a rural hospital that will pay me $100,000 to be an administrator at a small hospital so that I can get to paying this stuff off? I mean, you're going to have to think very radically, and you might tell your parents, "I'll be back in 5 years when these loans are gone." And God help you if you sign for a mortgage or something like that. I mean, you can't afford that. You know what I mean? Have you started having to make payments yet?
For the student loan?
Uh-huh.
Yes, I started making payments. I was on the SAVE program, but it seems like they're changing that.
Yeah, they're changing every program. And you don't know this, but we've been telling people for years, don't count on the federal government coming to your rescue on these loans, because you never know what an administration's going to do. And then here we go. We got a new administration that's cutting everything. And so, yeah, man, jeez.
They're not cutting everything. They are making changes. They're not cutting everything. And PSLF is still very much alive and well. They're definitely, we think, going to be cutting SAVE, which again was new as of like 2 years ago. So that plan hasn't even been around for a long time. And I think PSLF is something that they have not been targeting. They know it's an important program. It was also written into law back in 2007 when it was signed in. So some of these things are not so easy to change. And I think we can rely on them with a healthy dose of skepticism where we do have backup plans or we can pivot, because your life may change too. You may not want to work in public service long term. What's our plan B, plan C? So those are things that we talk a lot about in financial planning, because life is not a straight line. We can't rely on anything because everything changes, but I think we still can lean into things that are available to us and take advantage of them while they do exist, and take advantage of them to the best of our ability, and have a game plan for if we need a fallback plan for some reason. So yeah, I know they've been not fans of PSLF or any kind of loan forgiveness associated with federal student loans, but I do believe as a financial planner, as a fiduciary, it is a disservice to people to not act like those programs are available and could be an option compared to the alternative, which the alternative is living a very miserable life for 5-10 years to completely pay off loans that we could have had a lot of assistance with. And programs were designed to help and benefit people who are public servants. They are designed to help people still go get a good degree and put their heart and their service into a public service capacity and not have to stress so much about the finance side, because PSLF is available. So I think this needs to be mentioned as an option and not poo-pooed immediately because of your own personal narrative.
What is your take-home pay every month?
About $2,800 to $3,000.
And what's your student loan payment every month?
I was paying about like $100 a month on it, but then I had stopped.
You know what that's going to do, right? Your $230,000 is going to turn into $300,000.
It is, and it doesn't matter because she could do PSLF.
Because the interest still keeps cooking.
The interest is higher than what you're able to pay.
Interest. They put it, I forgot the term. They had put it on like something. They said like
forbearance.
You didn't have to pay at the moment, because I guess they were figuring out everything as things were changing.
Well, you got to find out what's actually going on there, because the interest can still be growing. Even though they say, hey, you don't need to pay, don't worry about it, and the interest keeps growing while you sit there. And so that's the math for you to solve, is I need to make the most money with the lowest living expenses possible, because otherwise, even if you're able to pay $1,000 a month toward your debt, which I don't know you could even do, it would take you 20 years to pay off this debt. And that's if the balance didn't grow by a cent.
And that's if you didn't take advantage of anything available to you that's already available to you. Again, it's a disservice not to mention this and act like it doesn't exist.
Okay.
And so you're going to have to debt snowball this thing, but I don't want it to take 20 years. I think Lexi has a lot of life to live.
That's what I've been doing. With the credit cards, I've paid one off already.
How many more do you have?
I just have one credit card left, and there's $1,400
okay.
left to pay on it.
And then what's your next smallest balance if you split up all the loans?
No, that's it. And then the next thing I would have to tackle is just paying off the student loans. That's the only credit card I have left.
I think it's great that she was focusing on the credit cards. Like credit card debt is definitely something that you want to get out of the mix pronto because interest rates on those guys are not pretty. They could be up to 30% almost. And credit card debt is some of the most expensive debt out there. So tackling that first and foremost was a great move. I think that's awesome, and she's going to be real proud of herself when that's done.
Yeah, what's the smallest loan balance you have out of all the loans? I'm guessing they're split up amongst many loans.
Oh, no, I consolidated them.
Oh, no. Oh.
So we do recommend consolidation, which means combining the loans within the federal system after somebody graduates, especially if they're looking at going towards PSLF, because you borrow loans when you go to school and you get a loan for every academic period that you're attending. So that could mean that you have 2 or 3 loans for every year that you went to college, and they could be different loan types as well. You could have some unsubsidized and some subsidized loans, some graduate loans and some unsubsidized loans. So you can have like a list of loans post-graduation because it itemizes, by your academic periods. So consolidation post-graduation, if we're looking at loan forgiveness, is a good move because it simplifies your loan profile. We have less loans because every loan has its own ledger, right? It has its own interest rate, its own payment plan, its own calculations, everything. And so if we're going towards loan forgiveness, we want things to be as simple as possible and as trackable and monitorable as possible. So if we consolidate, we just have one consolidation loan to monitor to make sure that our payment counts are being appropriately added up over time towards the 120 for PSLF. So I don't think she was wrong to consolidate post-graduation. It does make the debt snowball or avalanche, the Ramsey solutions, like they always, advocate for any kind of debt, which again are not bad solutions. They're great for credit cards or personal loans or other debt that we have in the mix. But when it comes to student loans, in this case, she shouldn't be doing an avalanche or a snowball approach because she should be doing PSLF. I've said that 100 times, I feel like already. So they're upset at her because she consolidated everything. And what that does is it combines the interest rates into a weighted average of what her existing interest rates were. So it doesn't make the interest rate better. It also doesn't really make the interest rate worse because it's just the weighted average of what we had. So that's what consolidation is. But generally, if we're going towards PSLF, I would have recommended that post-graduation. So in my book, she hasn't done anything wrong.
Okay.
Because I had talked with another financial advisor when
I think you need to stop talking to people.
Yeah, stop talking to people. Stop talking to people.
And she had said it would be best to consolidate it all together instead of paying a bunch of different loans.
Yeah, you got bad advice. I'm sorry.
No, she did not get bad advice. And they are not asking for more context about anything on why that was recommended. Again, these guys are not financially certified in any capacity. They don't have a CFP, they don't have a CHFC, they don't have a CSLP. They probably didn't even go to school for finance, okay? Maybe I'm generalizing, maybe I'm wrong, but generally, they are not licensed to give specific individual financial advice, comprehensive financial advice. It frustrates me when somebody who's not specialized in certain areas, they're giving advice, right? It's a social media platform. So of course they're giving advice with no repercussions. Like a financial professional who does give bad advice does have repercussions. These guys have no repercussions because they're not bound to anybody, to any regulatory body, which is kind of concerning. And they have to give blanket advice because they're speaking to the masses. And what's wrong with blanket advice is you are not the same as your neighbor, as your friend, as your sister, as your mother. Your financial situation is very specific to you. So we shouldn't be taking broad, basic financial advice that fits everybody because your situation is very different from everybody else. So the comprehensiveness of financial advice is really important. The context to why somebody would do something in their financial plan, taking into account a lot of other areas of their finances, is very important. That's why and how you make good recommendations in financial planning. And these guys don't know much about this person except for her income right now and her debt load. That's about it. Right. They don't know anything else.
When two knuckleheads on a podcast that you don't even know are the only ones speaking truth to you, I'm sorry. I hate this for you. You're going to have to go find some more jobs and you're going to have to get radical about it. And you're going to have to work multiple jobs. And There's only one way to do this. You can't cut anything from your life. You're going to have to just make more money.
And if the debt's not in your name, I would not be worried about it right now. If it's in mom's name, worry about that later. Focus on the ones that are in your name.
Unless you consolidated it all together.
It sounds like that could have happened. Hang on the line, Lexi. I'm going to send you a copy of my book, Breaking Free from Broke. I hope it gives you some encouragement along what might be a long journey.
Okay, so in summary, you know my thoughts. I've been screaming it every break, basically. I think this person, hopefully, somehow, through the interwebs, finds this video and gets advice from somebody who knows student loans. We have a free newsletter through studentloanplanner.com that we send out every Thursday. So studentloanplanner.com, you can register or put in your email for a newsletter that we send out every Thursday about what is going on in the student loan world. We have a bunch of free blog articles on our website about every topic under the sun. So PSLF, public health, degrees, search like public health information, PSLF, different income driven plans, some of the news that's going on with student loan repayment, like with the House and the Senate's proposed bills that are going on. We do have a consultation service through Student Loan Planner that we do one-on-one consults for to help folks navigate their student loan situation, looking at all options. We're not just going to cherry pick what we personally believe is correct. We're going to look at all options available. And through SLP Wealth, we do comprehensive financial planning. So if somebody out there is interested in looking at all the pieces together and getting advice on their whole financial plan with all of the pieces being considered, not just blanket financial advice from someone on the internet, like me even right now, then you could sign up to be a financial planning client at slpwealth.com as well. Hopefully this was helpful, and I hope this person finds us somehow, some way, and I hope they get enrolled in PSLF and they don't, poo-poo on their family for trying to do the right thing and trying to get them to further their career. And, that's a huge accomplishment to graduate with an MPH, and there are great career opportunities for this degree. I think your dreams of maybe purchasing a home, that should be maybe looked at a little closer when it comes to your budget. You're going to need to understand, like with the income-driven payment, and if we're paying the Parent Plus loans with mom, what's left? Like what kind of income situation, what income is coming in, what expenses are going out, and is it an appropriate time to purchase a home? Does that make sense at the current state of where you are right now? Could be yes, could be no. It really just depends on your other financial goals too. If that's really the only goal you have coming up, like that is the big financial goal that you have, it probably is something that you could do if you're taking advantage of the PSLF program with your own federal loans. It's just maybe the Parent Plus loans that you have to figure out, okay, are we helping mom? Are we doing an income-driven plan for mom as well? What's the game plan there? So there are some things that come into play that factor into your budget to understand, like, is that a good next move? Is it doable? What's our timeline? What amount of house can I afford? Those types of questions. So I think you're on the right track, though, with tackling the credit card debt. I think definitely look into PSLF program. That could be a really great safe haven for your situation. And look at some resources for the Parent Plus loans, figure out if maybe an income-driven plan could be a good fit, or a standard repayment plan there, or refinance there. There's a lot of different options that you have. Don't feel like you're backed into a corner here. So thanks for hanging out with me, and I will catch you on the next one.